Great Flood Period, Earth in Purification and Rebirth. Kardec explains that the Great Flood Period followed the Tertiary, representing the last major phase of Earth's geological transformations before the current era. It was a time of intense water movements, cataclysms, and glaciations that reshaped the landscape, purified the continents, and established the definitive conditions for human life on the globe. Seas and rivers invaded vast regions, depositing sediments that would serve as the foundation for future civilizations. Ice layers covered parts of the northern hemisphere, pushing species and altering entire ecosystems. But far from being blind destruction, everything obeyed the divine law of progress. Nature was renewing itself, preparing the world for the emergence of conscious man. Modern geology confirms that the so-called flood was, in fact, a series of climatic and glacial changes that occurred between 2.5 million and 10,000 years ago. These events, known as ice ages, alternated between periods of intense cold and warming, causing the seas to rise and fall periodically. These oscillations led to the disappearance of several species, such as mammoths and prehistoric big cats, and the emergence of others better adapted to the new conditions. From a spiritual perspective, Kardec observes that each natural transformation has a moral purpose. Destructive forces are also regenerative forces. Just as the spirit must undergo tests to purify itself, the planet goes through its own cosmic tests to become a purer and more balanced dwelling. The apparent destruction is always the prelude to reconstruction. Contemporary archaeology reveals that, during this same period, primitive humans, descendants of earlier hominid forms, began to expand across the earth. Left traces of tools, cave paintings, and burials that attest to the awakening of spiritual consciousness. Human intelligence flourished, and the planet, renewed by waters and ice, became the home of a new phase of moral and intellectual life. Kardec, in the Genesis, emphasizes that the symbolic narratives of the floods in different traditions, from the Bible to Egypt, India to the Americas, are distorted memories of real events transmitted by ancient civilizations. These accounts, although wrapped in myth, have historical and scientific foundations. God speaks to humanity through nature and also through symbols, and each geological catastrophe carries a spiritual message of renewal and hope. Modern paleoclimatology also demonstrates that after the melting of glaciers, the planet experienced a great environmental balance, allowing the flourishing of forests, domestication of animals, and the beginning of agricultural cultures. It was the cradle of civilizations and the effective beginning of the human era. Spiritism sees in this process a parallel with the evolution of the soul. After long eras of ignorance and instinct, the human spirit emerged, like the earth after the flood, purified and ready for new achievements. The physical nature and the moral nature followed, side by side, the same ascending path. The flood period, therefore, was not a punishment, but a universal purification. The moment when the earth, washed by waters and transformed by cold, became capable of supporting civilization and moral progress of man. It was the mark of the transition from instinct to reason, from force to conscience, from raw nature to thinking nature. If this reflection inspired you with reverence for the balance of divine laws, share it, because understanding the flood period is to realize that God renews life through the waters of time and eternal wisdom.